Hot stove conversations about baseball, history, football, and current events that may leave you saying there's more to consider. Now, here's your host, Jack Moore.
Welcome to More to Consider, Baseball Edition. Okay, so over the weekend, this past week, I coach at a junior college, and I really love the people I coach, which is great. So the head coach tells me the other day that Vic Diaz is in town, and I'm like, man, I haven't seen him in a while, and we coached in the same league together about a decade ago. It's a really fine young man. He's got a great background. A lot of what we're going to talk about in this show is if you're the young player, you're the parent of a kid trying to figure out the college game or even the professional game, what you kind of need to know. Are there snake oil salesmen out there selling you a dream or a lie or whatever else? We're going to kind of get into that. So Victor's a native of New Jersey. Like I said, he finished up at Old Dominion. He's coached and worked in professional baseball and at the college level. Great guy, super intelligent. I really think the world of him. And that's, I'm going to tell you, the greatest beauty of working in baseball, and Vic will, I'm sure will back me on this, is the people you meet. And it's a circle, and it's a small circle. I mean, I can be in California and run this, hey, you know someone? Yeah. I was in California this year, and I ran a guy from Virginia by a player that played pro ball. I played with him, and then next thing you know, we're calling him. They're catching up for the first time in 10 years. You know how that is, Vic. Everybody knows everybody. How are you, sir?
I'm great. First of all, thank you for having me on, Jack, and great seeing you last week, man. I'm honored to be on, always humbled to just be able to talk baseball and be around the community that we're in, right? Like you said, baseball's a small world and it's a different type of community, and it makes you meet people along the path that, they stay in your life forever, man. Baseball's been my vehicle for sure, but I'm doing great down here in Daytona Beach, Florida, so I can't complain too much about the weather.
Nah, Daytona's not a bad place to be, not at all.
No, not at all. But, I'm thankful, get to be home, spend some more time home, obviously transitioning into this new role in the recruiting advising role with Elite Sports Advising. And I'm thankful for where I've been and where I'm at now until at this point in my career, for sure. All the people that have helped me get there, the most importantly, the players that I've been able to meet. It's always about the players first, and then the coaches who have always supported me in my path. So and also my family. They've sacrificed a lot, so I'm extremely thankful. But man, awesome to be on here with you, dude.
I appreciate it. So Vic and I see each other the other night, and he's doing a little seminar for some people that have young people that are considering they want to play in college. It's a whole. I got 2 lifetimes on Vic here, so time wise. It was so different when I was growing up, but I'm not so sure in some ways it might not have been better in this sense. You sort of had bird dog people that would run around both professionally and at the college level and say, hey, there's this kid in such and such obscure area, you need to really go see him. And college coaches had to kind of beat the path and go out there. And now we're into this world of showcase and travel ball where Division I coaches have told me it's kind of like you really kind of have to kiss their ass to get these people to bring the kids to you. So it's a whole different recruiting situation. And you've been on all sides of it. You've been a player in college a decade ago. And then since that time, you've been the coach in college and you've been in the professional ranks as well. And I'll just say this up front. Like one of the things I think the other night when we were discussing with the parents, that a lot of parents, it just doesn't make sense to them, is I said, hey, maybe not the kids that were in the room the other night, but I've said it to my college guys. Some of you are more a professional prospect than you are a college prospect. There are going to be colleges that tell you you're not turnkey and ready to play at that college, but it doesn't mean you don't have a massive amount of upside. So the discouragement of hearing, well, some school told me I wasn't good enough, doesn't mean you're not going to be good enough down the road or there's not a better fit for you as you go. So along that line, you're with Elite Sports Advising, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and so what exactly do you do with that? We'll start there, what you're doing now with the advising.
Yeah, so I'm the Mid-Atlantic Director of Advising. So what that means is I cover that area from the athletes and the players and the families that I try to work with and help through their recruiting process. So what we do is with Elite, we're very proactive in a player's process and helping navigate them through that. From the minute that they start with us, it's, we have a specific step-by-step process on how we go about it, from, hey, really understanding what's important for you in the recruiting process, what boxes you want to check, really understanding what fits you and your family from a location standpoint and the factors that go into that. But also, much more than that, mentoring these kids through all this stuff, right? Because what happens is in a lot of people's processes, everybody's race is different, right? So we try to remind these players to run their own race. Don't compare yourself to the next guy. Don't compare yourself to your other guy. Like, everybody's path is much different. And so we do a lot of the heavy lifting for these families from a standpoint of making sure that they're being introduced to these schools, having that communication, also calling these schools, and not just the schools on their list, but calling around and saying, hey, what's your recruiting timeline like? What class are you on? Because quite frankly, there's going to be some college coaches that are a little more transparent with us than families and other coaches, right? You call coaches that are going to give you a little more, and they're going to help you out, right? Like, I talked to about 4 college coaches today, and just gathering information, but also telling them about some players that we have. It's a very proactive process, and we're very thorough about how we go about it. We not only help families with the recruiting side, but we have hard conversations as well to make sure we're getting real feedback in real time, and we're able to adjust and understand how this list is going to change over time. And this feedback helps us understand where the player stands, right? There's nothing more valuable than honesty. And when these families have that and then they have the truth, they're able to make better decisions, right? It's just the most subjective information is always going to help us make better decisions. And that's my job to do. It's my job to really be an advocate for these players and really be a mentor for them. And I always talk to players and I tell them it's much more than recruiting. It's player development and personal growth, right? Like, it's a 3-step process in that I'm not just the guy behind the screen or calling coaches on your behalf. I'm also someone that you can come to and talk about your bad days and your good days and things like that. So that's where, we separate ourselves, right? Because it is a very selective process that we go through with Elite Sports Advising. We don't reach a hand to everybody because not everybody's a fit for us. And we don't go to the masses, right? The average, or one advisor, the average clients we have a year is maybe 25, 30 for each advisor. So when you're able to have that quantity, not as much, you're able to create the relationship. Like, the relationship with us and the family and the players, too important to sacrifice. That's something that we go about. So it's kind of what we do. We navigate the process with them. We mentor them through it, and create great relationships with the families.
So now, again, you finished up your degree, I think, at Old Dominion in 2015, correct? Like 10 years ago.
Correct. Yeah. Finished my degree in 2015, finished playing my career in 2016.
Right. Okay. So you've got 10 years out from when you finished, but you're roughly 15 years out from when you were in this same process. How much do you think the process has changed?
Changed a ton.
Yeah.
It just has. It just changed so much. Right. There was an earlier timeline that coaches can contact players. Now they moved that timeline back. When I was in high school and being recruited in 2009, 2008, we couldn't get contacted till July 1st at the end of our junior year. So that's a big difference. The amount of teams out there now, the travel ball teams out there now, the people advocating for these players now, the platforms. Twitter was not a thing when I was coming up at the time.
Yeah.
We had Facebook, but it was different. There just wasn't as many avenues, as like everything just continues to evolve. But it's a lot different now, man. Decisions are made a lot quicker as well. So I feel like today the process isn't as thorough as it was when I was coming through, where these coaches are talking to you 5, 10. Like, I remember talking to a lot of the schools that were interested in me more than 5, 10 times, right? Like, over the phone, communicating like that. So it's a little more expedited because of the platforms we have available to us, because of the teams that are available and the resources. So I would say that's been the biggest thing. Everything is just a little faster. That's how I would put it. Everything's just a much faster now.
So when you were, at what year in your high school development did you say to yourself, when were you thinking, yeah, I want to play major college baseball, or I want to play at a higher level? I mean, was it 13 years old? Was it 5 years old? When did you really know that you wanted to play baseball?
Man, I always wanted to play baseball. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like I knew this is what I wanted to do from a really young age. Like I said, it was my vehicle, right? Like I come from an inner city in New Jersey, and that's just it's my vehicle. It's what's gotten me to where I am today. It's what's gotten me through college, and I knew I always wanted to play college ball, right? And my eyes weren't open to a major high level of college ball until I received a handwritten letter from Mississippi State the January of my junior year. That was when I realized, okay, I may be pretty good. Like,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I may have a chance to play there. And yeah, Butch Thompson, who's the head coach at Auburn now, he was a pitching coach at Mississippi State at the time. He wrote me a handwritten letter, and I was just like, okay, this is how this thing works. And he referenced Carl Nonemaker on that letter, who I ended up
Right.
playing for at Old Dominion.
At Old Dominion, right.
But at that time, Nani was not in college baseball.
Mm-hmm.
He was working outside of college baseball, but I had met Nani at an event that I attended in the tri-state area in New Jersey. Yeah, so that's kind of when, I would say 15, 16, where I really, probably 15 years old, where I really felt like, okay, I think I could really play at a high level, right? Because, I always believed I can, but then you always want to feel like you know where you stand, right? Like, that's important.
Yeah, I wonder, it does, but then again, I know it's the extreme, but those stories I've heard of Tom Brady, we all know him, but when they did that documentary on Brady, the Brady Six, the six guys drafted in front of him, one of the guys that he played with at Michigan was with the Browns, and he said the first day of practice, in his experience, this running back, he goes, I'm looking around like Tommy's better than these guys, like guys that have been taken in the first round. So he goes, I call Tom. I'm like, hey, how's it going, brother? And he goes, I'm going to start. And I'm like, well, you got Bledsoe in front. But he's like, no, I'm going to start. And then he walks up to the owner of the club and says, the best decision you ever made was to draft me. So there are those people like that. And given the
For
fact he had the
sure.
worst combine in history, there's got to be something in him, I guess, all along that believed, even if everybody else thought he was crazy, that he
Yeah,
was that guy. And then, he gets his opportunity. But if Bledsoe doesn't get hurt and he gets thrown into that game, we might not ever know who he is. That's
we don't know.
that's real. Yeah, we don't even know who he is. So there is the late bloomer, which is the other tension, and we're kind of talking about this with the parents the other night. I was in the Valley League a couple of years ago, and we had a kid, crazy talented, but he always seemed to have an issue. Always had an issue, like see, mentally. And I asked him one time, I said, son, what's really bothering you? And he goes, I'm seeing all these guys at these major universities, and he's at a JUCO, and I've bypassed them, and nobody gave me any love when I was growing up. And I'm like, have you ever heard of Evan Longoria? What are you talking about? And I said, he wasn't even offered scholarship out of high school. He walked on at a JUCO. 2 years later, he's at Long Beach State, and he's third overall pick. I saw kind of the same thing from Ryan Zimmerman. Zimmerman was a fourth overall pick that really didn't have a lot of interest till UVA came in late. So, but you tell a 19-year-old it doesn't really matter what everybody thought of you at 17 and everyone else, but they just don't get it. I mean,
Yeah,
they really have this emotional, but Jimmy got more love and Timmy got more love. And I'm like, believe me, if you're the guy at 2021, it won't matter what everybody thought then.
no doubt.
You just got to you got to let that go, but you work with it every day. And we talked about this the other night too. It's all this keeping up with the Joneses. The parents that feel like if their kid doesn't go to a school that they can tell everybody else in the neighborhood, they're going to be embarrassed or something.
For sure.
And the kid might be better off at either another school or take the JUCO route, get some development, play every day, and see where you are in 2 years. So that's a really tough part of it. And I do think that, not that it didn't exist before, because it existed in high schools, it existed in American Legion programs, but with the advent of the travel showcase type of baseball platform, I think that these families being thrown into these environments are doing a lot more comparison of the outcome than probably ever before.
Absolutely, man. And that's what we tell them, right? And you're right, like it doesn't matter. And I say that like because like my career, like it kind of just it was not linear ever, right? Like
Right.
and my experiences. So, I kind of grew into, I always knew I was a good player. I always believed in myself. Like my senior year in high school, I was an all state player, first team All-State pitcher, shortstop, county player of the year. I always believed in it. I lost confidence when my freshman year at Mississippi State, right? Like, I'm coming from New Jersey. I'm coming to a place where, like, there's really good players here, man. Like, my freshman class had Adam Frazier, who's almost got 10 years in the big leagues, Hunter Renfroe, who's almost got 10 years in the big leagues. The two pitchers in front of me were Chris Stratton, who's a first rounder, Kendall Graveman. And it was just, we had big leaguers all over the field.
Right?
And
Sure.
they're good dudes, good people, man. And, like, it's intimidating, right? And nobody tells you you're going to go through that, right? And so, to your point with the comparison, man, like, when I started to compare myself to these guys is when I wasn't my best self.
Right. Yeah.
I had to run my own race, right? And I did not really know. And I left totally on my terms from Mississippi State because I was just naive and I was trying to compare myself. I left because I was like, I think I should start. So, they were great to me, man. They were like, hey, you got a spot on this team. You have your scholarship. You have everything. We don't want you to transfer. And I just was naive to that, man. And thankfully, I ended up loving where I finished my career. But I kind of grew into the mentality of, like, I don't care what anybody thinks. Like, my coaches told me at Old Dominion, like, dude, I wasn't the same pitcher, right? I'd be, on a good day, I'm throwing 89. On a bad day, like most days, I was like 84 to 88, right? But they told me, like, I was just delusional enough to be successful. Like, where I was just like, I think I'm the best guy out there, right? And I kind of grew into, like, kind of that Brady mentality of, like, nah, I'm that guy. But I had to lose trying to compare myself. I had to lose, hey, this is where I see my career in 4 years. Like, I thought, hey, going to Mississippi State, going to get drafted in 3 years, everything's good. It's like, could have worked out more opposite. I had a couple surgeries. So, yeah, I mean, it's important, man. And, like I said, tell you that story because it's just, you can't compare your process. Everybody's story is different. Everybody's story is written differently. And I think it's just really important to really be present. And, something Coach Finwood always told me is be where your feet are. You have to be where your feet are. You have to be really, really understand who you are, what you want, and what's important to you. And most of the time, it's going to align to what you get, right? It's not about the result, and it's, that's and why we tell people not to compare themselves because, like, hey, just because your kid committed to this school doesn't mean he's going to be good at this school.
That's right.
He may never pitch an inning at that school, right? Like, you got to look up at the end of it and see, okay, what was he impactful as a freshman? Was he impactful as a sophomore? Did he impact the team? Because I think that's where they get lost is they compare themselves to try to find this school that I'm going here. It's like, great, dude, but, like, you may not pitch an inning. If you like being on a team, that's awesome. But, like, run your own race and really find out what matters, what's important to you. Do you want to go someplace that you really want to play and attend school? Do you want to go someplace that you're just happy to be on the team?
Right.
Like,
That's right. Yeah.
don't compare yourself, and you can alleviate doing that if you look yourself in the mirror and you guys really have a thorough process of, hey, this is what we want out of a school, this is what matters to me, and this is what I value. And if you find a school that lines up with that, man, then that's where you're meant to be. And I just think people overlook that process, and more than ever in this college landscape, you know this, Jack, you need to know what matters to you.
Yeah, one of the things I actually heard a college football coach say this the other day. They're like, what's different about kids? And we're seeing an onslaught of NFL quarterbacks coming out that have played for 2 and 3 schools. I mean, it's happening a lot now.
Yeah.
And they're like, what do you think is like your biggest concern? And he goes, well, it's the kids with the portal. It's just the walking away all the time. And he said, again, back to Tom Brady. And I didn't know this about Brady until I recently saw him on an interview. He kind of was given a nudge about Fresno and going home, playing at Fresno State. And then he said he walked into the Michigan coach's office, and they've tried everything they can to run him off. They were always trying to get, including Drew Henson at the end. But basically he went in and the coach was like, Tommy, I hope you stick it out. And, I'll know you'll give my best. And, then he has another, really good senior year. And he is a team captain and he's all those things. But we have this kind of modern day when the kids don't like the way things are going. And I'm not questioning, like you said, if Mississippi State, like you're saying, didn't feel like a fit, I get it. You wanted to try something.
You know what? That was totally my decision, man.
Right, right.
If I were to go back, dude, I probably would have just said, you know what? If I knew what I knew now, I would
You
have said, no,
stayed.
I'm gonna stick it out, and this is what I'm gonna
Okay,
do.
okay, that's
You know what I
fair.
mean? Because and I still remember this to this day. Like, I talked to one of my teammates there, and again, like Jack, I just didn't have anybody in my corner that would tell me this
Right,
is how it would
right,
go.
right.
Like, I didn't. Like, my parent, I was the first one in my family in my town to ever go through that process like that, right? So, for me, it was like I didn't know any better, right? And now knowing what I know, and it's why I am who I am today. It's why I am as loyal as I am today. It's why I am as like why being a good teammate matters to me a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Is because I learned through that process, and it's why I'm super proud of being an Old Dominion alum, right? Like, because I had to like lose my own ego, and I had to learn how to like self reflect myself, and really look at it and be like, hey man, like being a part of a team where I can make an impact is really important to me. Having really good teammates is really important to me. Being a loyal person is really important to me. And that's why I am where I am today, right? And I don't think I become that person unless I learned through that, right? And I grew through that. So yeah, if I could go back, I probably would maybe make a different decision and just say, hey, no, like I'm gonna prove myself, but I don't regret it.
Well, and in fairness too, like I remember the famous story of Aikman. He goes to Oklahoma, and they're running the wishbone, and it's like I think I'm a drop back passer, go to UCLA, and he does, and that's clearly the right fit. Why the hell he was ever thinking of Oklahoma in the first place? You might ask. Like, didn't seem like the right kind of fit. He was a classic drop back passer. He resembled what an NFL quarterback looked like back then, and Oklahoma wasn't exactly a school for that. So sometimes people go to places and it's not quite the right fit for sure. All right, let me ask you this, because this is what I really wanted to kind of get into too. The kids and what their expectations. This is my second year back helping Paulie with the baseball, and I love our kids. I really love our kids. We have great kids, but they have a different mindset as to the instruction. I got 30 plus years around Tom House, and so the things I've learned that works. Move fast in the foot strike, rotate late, get behind the baseball, eyes are level to the horizon, you're going to be pretty good. Whatever slot you find out of that, whatever, guys genetically are different. They got different. But with the advent of all this measurement of pitches, we're playing at places this fall and everything's on the board and it's vertical this, horizontal that. And there's guys that really, and I know you have background in this, there's guys that have this read on, they see what they're now calling the shape of the pitch. And I'm like, okay, I can get that. But I wanted to run this by you. I think when I'm losing in the equation that I hear from a lot of people is that I still think there's 6 dimensions to beat the hitter. You can beat him by him, you can beat him out front, you can beat him in, you can beat him out, you can beat him up, you can beat him down. In the forward and back, I think it's what's being lost. Kids are like, it seems to me, they're kind of burning the pitch. They're trying to throw with max velocity, which I get, that they're trying to max out the velocity and create movement, but they're missing that piece of being able to throw pitches that look like that pitch out of the hand that's of a different speed. So that whole get them out front, get them, because to me, you look at the guys that were classically great pitchers. Now, I don't know, you'd say you're Nolan Ryan's, but Sandy Koufax's curveball was a separator. But the guys like the Maddoxes, there were more of that kind of finesse type of pitcher. It's how much you can get them off balance. So let's talk about this. Where are you with where you think pitching instruction's going from that kind of measurement of what the baseball does?
Yeah, I think from just like a pitch design standpoint, I think what happens is every day we see something new,
Mm-hmm.
right? And everybody wants to be updated, and a lot of people like to collect information. And for me, there's a difference between collecting information and applying information. And to apply information, we know you have to understand the information.
Right.
So when you have a good understanding of this information and you can build out a good process, a development plan, I think you can get to everything that you're talking about. I think that still exists. If you do it the right way and you understand it, and you, like my farm director with the Phillies, Luke Merton, one of the best baseball guys I've ever been around. He always told me, he's like, you have to generalize the process in some way because you always have to know where you can go back and make it better. If you never generalize the process, then you don't know where to make it better. And he's right. I've thought about that a lot. I'm like, sure, everybody's different, but it's like, no, like there has to be some direction in this player development, right? And so if we are just chasing the thing and saying, whoa, this guy needs a better pitch shape, but we don't know why and we don't know how it's going to impact his game and his performance, then we're
Right.
not doing a service. So
Right.
you are right. Like there's like pitching is all about disrupting timing. And
Mm-hmm.
I think as an industry, we just have to do a really good job, a better job of understanding where these players are in their career, what their training age is like, and what steps we need to take them to for them to move their game to the next level, right? And that may be, hey, this kid maybe he just needs to get stronger. He doesn't need a velo program right now. He needs to get stronger. He needs to build skills, right? This kid, there's kids these days, they just need to learn how to play catch, dude. Like they
No
don't
doubt.
they don't
No
know how
doubt.
to do that, right? Like it's like, well, you
Totally.
can do this and like you throw to a wall, and I love plows just as much as anybody, but like, dude, go play catch and go catch the ball, right? And see ball flight and let yourself see the adjustments you have to make. And I think if you do it the right way and you build out a plan that's a very thorough plan, you understand how to go from the most non-invasive things to the most invasive things, right? You create a scale on how you go about it, right? And what happens is I think coaches are really invasive early on in guys' careers where they may not need that, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
you may get a pitcher that comes in and he's a freshman and he's in a really good place and he's a good athlete. He meets the strength threshold and you just say, you know what? I'm going to stay out of his way. I may just adjust his breaking ball. You know what? That's really good coaching, man. That's really good coaching.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so where I am is with the pitching, with the pitch design stuff is like, if we understand the player, where he's at currently, what we think he needs to do to continue to develop his skills, then I think we can build out a step-by-step process on like, hey, what do we need to adjust right now? Like, what's the most important thing with this guy? Like, if he's really close to throwing a better slider, then like that's not invasive, right? Like you're not taking him from one complete different pitch to another pitch
Right.
too early,
Right.
right? Then it's like, hey, maybe we just adjust this. But if you have kind of like a hierarchy of how you're working with his development plan, then you like, because to be honest, it's like, what's the point of me making the guy's slider better if he can't throw strikes at all? Like, what's the point of me making his slider bigger if he can't? So I'm giving him a bigger shape to try to control when he can't control the shapes that he's currently throwing, right? So that's kind of where I'm at with that, is like being really good about understanding the player and having a process that you can marry that with and going about it that way and not just spitballing it all the time. I think that's the worst thing you can do. I think creating an environment for a player to explore is great from an athlete standpoint, from trying to promote athleticism and trying to promote like self-organization. But as coaches, if we did our due diligence on the back end to make better decisions, I think that's where I'm at on that. I think it's great. I think pitch design is great. I think arsenal optimization is something that probably is one of the most non-invasive things you can do, just because with what we know with ball flight nowadays, where simple, you may just tweak a slider in one pitch just because you change the orientation of that pitch, whether it was a 4-seam or a 2-seam orientation, and you just change how he's gripping it, like, and you don't have to change anything else. I think it's right there for us, but I think understanding where these guys are to make these better decisions are important.
Yeah, I think one of the things too, I've had some kids work out at particular buildings and, they'll come out saying that the guys in the building are like, your 18 to 20 inch, vertical movement is A, B, or C, or what it means. And from my standpoint, and I may be wrong, but I've seen some studies that would suggest this, the people that are super successful are the ones that look like fastball the longest, and then it's not, whatever
Right.
that pitch is, right? So I actually saw a study on Mariano Rivera, and it was really crazy how straight as a string that cutter was for a long time. And, there's a saying that it's 1/3 you see the ball in flight, second third for the hitter, he has to make a decision to swing. In the last third, no human can really pick up the ball. They're not really tracking it to the bat. So that being said, if they assume the baseball is in spot whatever in that second third, and then it makes its massive amount of movement or any movement in that last third, then that's a far better pitch that has a predictable pattern of movement no matter how sweeping it is. I mean, it could be really huge coming out of the hand, but if it creates a pattern out of the hand in the first third, it's that much easier for the hitter to pick up. So, I'm really big on that. I don't care what the breaking ball does as far as the measurement of it, as much as it is. It sure looked like a fastball for a long time, and then it wasn't. That's where you're going to get the mishits and swings.
It's still a thing too, right? Like, because like, what are the pitches are you like? There was a couple years back to back, you see the sweeper is the phenomenon, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah.
Because it's different, right? Like, so now, what's happening now? All these guys are going back to shorter breaking balls. They're all going back to now. Splitters are making a big wave now, and it's because at the end of the day, it looks like the fastball longest. It stays over the plate.
Yeah.
You're able to control it, and you get guys to react, right? Like what people don't realize is like the sweeper is not a pitch that a lot of hitters chase, because like if they see it out of the hand,
it's bigger early.
It's bigger early. They're able to see it, and if they see it out of the hand in a different window, and they know it's going to finish off the plate, what are they going to do? Just say, okay.
Exactly.
That's what good hitters do, right? They put pitches in windows, and if it doesn't start in a certain window, they know it's a ball. And that's
right.
Hitting at a high level, right? So I think you're seeing that more often with like guys just throwing pitches that cover the zone for a longer period of time.
Mm-hmm.
That's just what it is. Like, how long can this pitch stay over the zone? It's cover the plate for a longer period of time. Like, because that's what we talk about, right? Like 2 strikes is like, hey, we don't have to bury anything. We need to finish above the plate, below the zone, right? Like that's where, because good hitters are not going to chase that pitch that you bury in front of the plate. They're just not. The pro-level hitters do not do that. And I think that's important for young guys to understand. To your point is like, man, there's some things like you may be good in college, but you may not be a pro guy.
Sure.
Because there's just some things that don't scale, right? There's like, if your fastball doesn't get swing and miss in college, do you think it's going to get swing and miss in pro ball? Probably not, right? Like if you think your walk rate's going to get better from college to pro. Now there's some guys that do, but like on the extreme cases, if you think your walk rate's going to get really that much better, I don't know if I would like bet my money on that, right? Like, because guys are just more patient.
Now, when you were coming up, this is a great question too. So you're saying you're coming out as a high school recruit, 09-ish, right? 09,
Yeah,
10?
I graduated 2000.
Okay. So you're in that range. How much did you call your own pitches when you were a pitcher?
Pretty much all throughout high school, yeah.
Okay. All right. And it's an ongoing discussion I've had with a lot of younger coaches. I think this is how I feel. And again, I got 2 lifetimes on you. When I started to see coaches calling pitches, it was just the craziest thing to me. I'm like, how is that happening? How is a guy 90 degrees off to the side who's not receiving movement, not seeing as the catcher sees it? What feel would you have? Now, there may be a big book of pattern pitching that everybody kind of accepts, makes sense or something, but it's not the same as being on the field. So years ago, I was in a round table with a group of guys with Tom House. And he said, when I was with the Rangers, and this was the pro approach, of course, but we went over scouting reports. We talked about tendencies. We talked about weaknesses and all that. But we tried to prepare the catcher and the pitcher to execute. And he said, and I really believe this is true, the 12 to 17-year-old set, going from 12 to 17, if you've never really done it on your own, you have no feel for pitching. And there's something that I can't describe. And I pitched in college. I wasn't where you were. I mean, I definitely didn't pitch pro ball. But there was something I did that I had a sense of that I never really knew how to put into words. And I'm not making this comparison other for the fact that when I heard it, I'm like, wow. I was listening to Greg Maddox on a podcast, and the guy said, hey, did you approach the hitter? I'm going to dot this, do this. And he goes, no. Every pitch I threw was based upon the last pitch I threw. And I swear that's exactly how I felt. Like the hitter was a punch dummy. I throw a pitch and he hits it 6 miles foul, but he's turning in, feed another one, get strike 2, bend something. But whatever was happening, the whole time I'm pitching, it's a feel of what did I just see? What did I just read? Make the next pitch based upon that. So the kid who's getting a signal on a wrist or getting from, that's coming from the side, the conviction's not there too. That's what a lot of people will say too, that the kid's looking at it, it gets hit 6 miles and he's like, well, screw it. You're the one that called it. So the kid doesn't have the same conviction in the pitch. But I really do think there's an art to pitching that a lot of guys have probably never really thought to describe. But when you're on the mound and you're in competition and you're going through the order of hitters, you start to fall into this sense. It's almost like, it's kind of like being in the zone that many people talk about. Or you're not. I mean, sometimes you're not, but you can fall into that pattern of feeling pitching. And your pitches are based upon the senses that you're getting from what the hitters are doing and what's working. So all my point is on that is, as we've done that some in the fall, in the last year I've been there, kids have no sense of how to pitch. They really don't. And I don't know how it could really be on them. Like, what could they have really picked up if everything's been, determined by somebody else? I mean, some things they probably should have learned, but I just don't think they really have a good sense of what's happening on the mound. I mean, they know some things about, here's my effort, here's the pitch, and here's the result. They also seem to pitch a lot scared of contact, which is universal. I mean, it's been around since the beginning of time.
No doubt.
But it seems to be, I don't know that it's any worse than it was 10, 20 years ago, that kids are that much different about concern about contact. But they do seem to want to pitch all around the plate and not nip the plate, not locate near the plate, which leads to that. So you've had what, 5 years with the Phillies? Okay, so what did you see in professional baseball? Because I've heard this from some friends in pro ball. There is kind of a war between the analytics and the old school guys. It's all about feel and touch and, what the eyeball tells me versus what some computer says. How much tension did you see in that? Or any?
I feel like we did a good job of kind of marrying both, right? Like, it's like, you can learn from both angles, man. Like, I learned a lot. Like, I love analytics just as much as anybody, right? But like, I learned a lot from a lot of the veteran guys that I've been around, that I have good relationship with, that are awesome. Like, they just know the game, man. Like,
Yep.
they know the game, dude. And you learn from them, and you learn what to look for. You learn what to see. You learn a lot of those things, that some of those things in the moment don't come up, that like, they're pretty important and impactful in the game. So I think what analytics does a good job is preparing us for the game. And I think the feel of the game helps us make adjustments in moments. And I think that's kind of how you marry them, right? Like, like, if I were going to marry it against a hitter, like, hey, I know I can go with this fastball and he's going to miss 50% of the time when I throw it at this part of the zone, right? But in that game, so I'm using analytics there, but in that game, my fastball may not be there. So I have to learn how to make that adjustment. Everybody is telling me, and the numbers are telling me, I get them out with a fastball. But what if my fastball's not there? Right? What do I do? Right? And that's where the feel of the game, being able to learn how to call your own game, learn how to go to a certain pitch, how to just reset in the game in that moment and do those things, is what helps you, right? You may just say, hey, man, like, I don't have my fastball today, but I've really seen this guy out in front on a breaking ball, so I may do that. And that's the stuff that you learn from some of these veteran guys that teach you too, right? Like, hey, man, this guy, he's pretty, like, he's jumpy really early to the breaking, really early on fastballs. So, throw a breaking ball, you're probably going to get him, right? Like, it's like those are the things. So I feel like with the Phillies, man, we had a really balanced group. We did a good job of doing that and trying to marry both. And it's not easy, man, because you're in you're trying to develop value, right, in a player,
right.
And you have these things that measure and grade their pitches, and they grade their fastballs and their breaking balls, and they grade their performances. So there's things that don't show up on there that were impactful in the game, though. Right. So I think that's really important to remember. And that usually comes to light. It usually comes to light. Like, I think there's one thing that I learned in pro ball, man, is like, the better guys usually come to light, man. Like, there's guys who pitch it, and they get a lot of guys out, and then everybody loves them in low A. It's like, oh, I love this guy. Throws strikes, this and that. He gets to high A, has a little bit of success. Double A starts getting hit a little bit, and it's like, it's the guy that we knew who he was. So it's like, we loved him in low A, but now we don't like him as much in double A because he's like, it didn't scale as much. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, and something I'll never forget, I was listening to a Washington, D.C. radio station when Showalter was with Baltimore, and one of my kids that grew up with me played with Showalter for 2 organizations and loved him. And, most of the time what you generally hear in the baseball world is really smart baseball guy. So
Yeah.
he's on. Moneyball was probably 10 years old at the time, the movie, which is nothing at all what happened to the O2 A's. Like, they forget, there's no mention of Hudson Zito and what was the other one, Mulder. None of the pitchers
Mark
are
Mulder.
mentioned. Yeah, the fact that Tejada is a superstar MVP type, they don't bring up that at all. So it's an interesting story. But one of the guys threw out to Showalter, and I guess, let me see if I can put this in a way that has the most impact, makes the most sense. It was like, well, what are we doing with the analytics? And he said, for example, who historically walks? Like, the A's were supposed to be taking this view of training the guys to be more, more discernment, walk more, be more selective, etc., which I've seen studies to say guys either kind of have that or they don't. I mean, the ability to have the hitting eye, it's kind of a thing. It's either going to have or not. Showalter made the point. Who walked more than anybody in the history of baseball? Bonds, Ruth, Ted Williams. He goes through the list and goes, what do they all share in common? The commentator's like, well, he goes, they could all hit.
They're good hitters.
Right. And he said, so they're looking back at something like these great hitters that got walked a lot. They got walked a lot because of the damage they could do. And if you put better hitters in the order with them, they tended to do more damage. If they were the only hitter in the order, they got less chance to do damage. And that's why people walk Bonds even with the bases loaded. Because you didn't want to take the chance he'd hit a 4-run homer. You just say, I'll give up a run and see what happens with the next guy. But that's what his point was. Now, what they all shared in common, those all-time greats, I don't know, Ruth struck out a lot, but I don't think he was a guy. He hit 342 lifetime as well. So people forget that he hit 342, but they must have been somewhat selective and they wouldn't swing out of the zone. Ted Williams even got criticized for that. Sometimes why did he go a little bit out of the zone and hit a backside ball? He wouldn't do that. He knew the zone. He didn't strike out, and he controlled the zone. And people did not want to really pitch to him much in the zone, which I get. But what I'm saying about Showalter's point is how much of the analytics is we're kind of looking back at the obvious. And then can we teach to the obvious? When we see things that we kind of like what looks like in the numbers, how much of that is, well, that's just a representation. The numbers are reflecting how good these people are versus, it's like going into a room like, something, we just saw the first place team walks a lot, hits a lot of home runs and runs the bases well. Let's do that. Well, you might be in a lower rung organization going, Skip, we'd like to. We don't have the horses they do. It's just not the same people. But and then that brings up too, the other thing I've kind of noticed about younger players, man, have I ever seen this. And this is just old man get off my lawn, but they really do look shocked when I say it. I'm coaching summer league and I had a kid, we're down 5-3, maybe 5-2. We're chasing 2 or 3 runs. And I hear the pitter patter of his feet with 2 out. He's thrown out by 10 feet at third, running second to third. And then he pops up and I'm like, just tell me what were you thinking there? Coach, I thought I had it. And I'm like, okay, you thought we had it, but if the guy was going to single up the middle and drive you in, we'll never know because you just got thrown out at third. And he said, Coach, I thought I had it. And I'm like, did you not hear don't make the third out at third? I mean, has that ever been something that was said to you? And I know with a lot of people like, hey, Coach, it's just a good aggressive baseman. I don't get it, brother. I don't get it. I don't get making the third out and stealing third. I know it ups your percentage of scoring from third with 2 out by 7% or something. So it's just not worth, but the kids do it all the time. And those kind of cliche things that we would say in the past, don't make this, don't do that, kind of thing, where the numbers are, they seem to have never heard. Some would say it's probably, and tell me if you agree, it's the showcase environment. It's too much. They've played in these environments where it's, hey, go out there and show your wares. If you can steal third, steal it. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big part of it, man. It's just like, I mean, you essentially, when you're doing that, you're just playing for yourself, right? Like, it's like,
sure.
right? You're showing that you can do this and do that, and they don't. That's a big part of like where we have to do really good in our baseball world and community to teach the game, and teach these players like, hey, do I need to take that extra bag with this guy coming to the plate? Like, does that make sense for me to take that bat? Like, hey, I got our 4-hitter coming up. Like, do I want to not have him up with a guy on second?
Yeah.
Or third, like now he's leading off. Like, is that going to help us? He's a run producer. I know he can drive the ball. So it's like there's so many factors that go into when I'm making these decisions outside of like, hey, what's the outfielder's arm look like? How has it been all day? Where have they been positioned? Has this guy given up contact that way often? Whatever it may be. And then understanding who your guy at the plate is and understanding yourself if you can make it. If you have a bad jump, you don't take that back. And like now he's hitting with a guy on second as opposed to leading off the next inning and doesn't have an opportunity to drive in a run.
Right. And yeah.
And I just think that's like, it is, right? It is the showcase thing. And that's one thing that I try to tell the parents too, Jack, that I advise is like, all these things are tables. We talked about this, the separators last week. I thought you mentioned it. It was awesome. These measurables are table setters. They do bring attention to coaches. They do. Like,
sure.
Because they give a threshold of like, okay, like guy's got bat speed. Guy can run a little bit. Guy's got velo. He's got some arm speed. Guy's got some power. They may see different things and it's great. But now, what do you do after that? Do you play the game? Does performance show like, hey, you may be a guy that you got great exit velo. You go into a game, you can't touch the ball. Right? Like, so that doesn't matter. And it matters to a point, and then the game matters. And then like what I have between my ear matters, right? Like, so it's like these measurables at these showcases, and I think a lot of them do a great job, right? Like for what it is. But they bring you to the table. Now, what's the separator? It's in game. Are you doing things that really impact the game? The game. Do they impact the game? Like making a decision not to go from first to third, where you may have a close play, and you're making the third out at third, and you have your best guy in the order up right now. And then what's your other separator? Hey, what's your mind like? Like, are you a competitor? Are you resilient? Are you these things? Like all these things that aren't measurable are the separators. They really are. And I think what we're seeing now is in pro baseball on the analytical side, we are being able to kind of measure that, right? Like you're able to measure guys' jumps in the outfield, right? Like they're called burst outfielders. Like, hey, how quick is his burst in the outfield? Like you can see it with your eyes, and a 60-yard time, which is overrated, may tell you something. But then like it may to the eye it may look like it, but then you put the number on it with like these Hawkeye and StatCast things, and you're just like, oh, he does get good jumps on the ball. But yeah, I think that environment does promote that a little bit, but they're just table setters, right? You got to continue to separate yourself somehow.
I knew a guy years ago. I haven't seen him in years, but he was a scouting director for a major league club, and we were talking about those very measurables you're talking about. And he goes, "Do you remember so and so fill in the blank guy, like household name outfielder?" And I knew exactly. I was like, "Yeah. Played center field for you guys." He goes, "Yeah, he ran a 7.1." I'm like, "Really?" He goes, "Yeah, he ran a 7.1." He was one of the best defensive outfielders I remember that era. And he goes, "Jack, he ran a 7.1." And I was like, "Wow." And he said, but he was in motion when the ball was pitched. It's like he knew everything that was going to happen. He could read the flight out of the ball, out of the pitcher's hand on the way to the plate, bat angle. He was steps into it all the time. And he was one of those guys, and I know that this stuff that you're talking about can show you like absolute speed, what I mean, miles per hour they're getting up to.
Yeah.
And there were some guys that don't run a good 60, and it's hard for people to imagine. But for 60 feet, they can really get it, and they get it fast.
They get it fast, yeah.
Yeah, and they get from one spot to the other. And there's been some base stealers that you'd look at in 60 times, and you don't think they can steal bases. And I've certainly had my share of 6'4" runners that can't steal a base.
No,
you know,
no.
there's just all that stuff comes into play, which kind of leads back to that old thing of, I wonder how much in the old days it wasn't maybe a better dynamic that guys that looked like they could play, and clearly the scout from 1957 was looking at a guy, and you could see raw power, you could see foot speed, you could see things, and then they played their way to the big leagues or they didn't. As guys that you hit 330 at a level, you went to the next level.
Yeah,
and then when
for sure.
When you cashed out at some level and you couldn't progress, you no longer moved up the ladder. And then it was how long could you stay in the big leagues? Is how long could you be better than the guys they bring up? I mean, in that it was all that kind of. But guys stay with the same team their whole career, or pretty good portion of it. So much of those dynamics have changed because now everybody's playing for another team potentially.
Yeah, I mean it's crazy. Everybody, it's just different, man. You see more than ever. I think that's kind of what analytics has done too. It's opened the door to players who are really good in stints and short stints and giving them opportunities. Like, I think it's interesting that, like, you see throughout a year how many players are being used on one team and on a big league team, like, throughout the year. Sure, they have a roster of 26, right? Whatever it may be, 25, and
26, yeah.
They have a 40-man team too, but then it's like, hey, we've used 60 players this year. And that's just, there's some strategy in that too. You know what I mean? There's some strategy in that of, like, you don't want to lose guys because guys have X amount of options and you have guys with more options. So you can kind of, like, play that game up and down, and they may fit a role just for that time. And it may be because they have a really good breaking ball that grades out well, that shows they can play at the next level and do that thing. So, like, I think it's also open doors. As well as it's closed doors, right? Like, I think some of these guys that we talk about is like, hey, they didn't have the best stuff, man, but they played their way there. I just think you're going to see less of those guys now, man. And then, like, just with the way the game is going and the draft and how you got less rounds and things like that, it's just, right, you see less of those guys because it has become not, there's a lot of guys that were elite in that category, but from a tool set, it's becoming more of an elite game, right?
Yeah, and when you say, too, about, like, even great pitchers that are Hall of Fame pitchers, I tell the guys, me, I just tell guys stories all the time, hoping that something sinks in. I was making a point last year in the bullpen about mound demeanor, and I said, some of you, it's not so good. Some of you, best pitcher I ever coached in college, he got drafted, was a kid that got drafted. You could look in his eyes when he pitched, and you didn't know if he was down 10 runs or up 10 runs.
Yeah.
He never changed. I mean, he'd strike you out, no fist pump, no nothing. It's just he kept, give me the ball back, he'd stick up your ass. Just, that's who he was. That's why he was really good. I mean, his expression never changed. He was a really slow pulse kind of guy, and he played pro ball out of that. But anyway, I'm watching the game, and somebody asked John Smoltz, they're like, hey, did you ever come out of the pen with nothing? He goes, yeah, all the time. My friend House used to say the thing about if you're a pitcher and you pitch 5 times, one time you're absolute horseshit, one time you're lights out, and 3 times you're average. And the Hall of Famers are the ones that pitch great when they don't have anything. Like, literally, they're the ones that are really, really good is when the days they have nothing. So the guy asked Smoltz, did you ever come out with nothing? He goes, yeah, all the time. He goes, what'd you do? He goes, I acted like John Smoltz. And the guy goes, what do you mean? He goes, sometimes I'm 4 innings in, and I'm just getting people out. And I didn't change my demeanor. I walked around the mound like I owned it, and I just acted like I knew how to act, and I didn't have anything. But the hitters don't know I don't have anything until they get up there, and it's kind of too late because if I never wanted to give up that look of defeat or, oh my God, where's my fastball today or something. And he goes, I could get by 4 or 5 innings sometimes just by my mound demeanor. And you know the game well enough to know there's guys that can do that. But he said, in fairness, I was 32 years old by that time, and I'd been in the league for a while, and I knew what I was, and other guys knew what I was. That was the biggest thing. The other guy on the other side knew what I could be. So in the days I didn't have it, I kind of faked it. That's a lot to tell young kids, but I'm like, if you get out there, but you know this too from pitching. How many times you been in the bullpen lights out and you got nothing on the field and vice versa?
All the time.
All the time.
All the time, man.
Yeah, leave the bullpen. You're like, oh my gosh, send in the locust. Here comes the famine and everything. And then you get out there, you get a couple people out, and all of a sudden, okay, well, something just kind of came back. I don't know what came back, but you can fall into it. And maybe sometimes the hitters are just having a bad day, and you caught them on their worst day.
Sure, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
That's part of it too. No, I mean, man, that's where, like, we talk about the game, man, and the things you can't measure. It's like mound presence, man. It's like, if you want to be a guy, man, you got to have that mound presence, dude. You have to be able to, like, reset and recognize what you're doing and refocus and do all those things, because hitters know too, right? They know if you're confident or not. Like, they know.
Right.
And it's up to you to really manage that in a game, man, and understand, like, I may not have my best stuff that day, but hey, you know what? I'm gonna be, I'm gonna go after them like I do, and that's part of it, I think. But I think what happens is a lot of guys too. They just get frustrated. They're so result oriented that they get frustrated, and it's like,
Yeah, yeah.
you know what, man? Like, I remember, like, there's times where I'd have an inning where I'm like, shit, man, this sucks. But I come out of that inning and I'm like, I look up and it's the fifth inning, and I always try to tell whatever pitcher I'm coaching that's a starter. I always try to tell him that. I always try to tell him, hey, you gave up 3 in the second. It's 3-1. We're down. Don't focus on that 3 right now. You're gonna leave this game here, and you're gonna come back, and you're gonna look up in the 6th, and you're gonna see you went 6 innings with 3 runs.
That's right.
Then you look at your outing.
That's right.
You almost try to teach them how to not look at everything for face value all the time.
Exactly.
And we live in a society that everything is at face value all the time, that our perspective gets blurred in that where it's like, hey man, if we just create a better perspective in these moments in the game, I still, like, as a starter, hey man, if I don't have this mound presence, if I don't have the ability to get through this and I'm only going 2 innings, I'm not a starter. Right? I need to figure out a way to get through this. And whatever you got to do it, that's what you got to do. Whether it's, hey, man, I got to fake this thing out right now because I'm going to go get it. I may have to use a pitch more often than I wanted to. But that's the stuff that we've talked about, right? Like, you want to groom a young pitcher, man, teach him that part of the game. And I think that's just so invaluable. And that comes with, like, how you train, how you're practicing. Do these things matter, and are you training them? If they're important, then you should train them. If mound presence is important, you should work on it. And I think some people value it, some people don't. But at the end of the day, the game will tell you.
Having coached in college and pro ball, how much difference did you really see in the players and the way they carried themselves and all the rest? Was it really that much difference? You're working with pretty much the same age group, I would imagine, when you were doing the stuff you do.
Man, I don't think there's a huge difference. I just think you see in pro guys, they're a little less impacted by failure.
Okay.
They're you know what I mean? Because it's like you just learn that it's a marathon.
Right.
You learn that it's 140 games in a minor league season. AAA is 52, so you know that, like, it's like in college you may have 15 starts, in pro ball you may have 30. So if, in college there's a little more of a demand to be better, be perfect, like, just be better all the time. And, like, I'm not saying in pro ball you should always try to be good, but it's just, you learn that it's a marathon, and if you allow this one outing to affect you, like, it could change the course of your month, could change the course of your season, and that's a long season to be that way, right? So it's like you just become a little more resistant to not taking failure personal and not letting it impact you as much. So I think you see that with, like, even you see these young guys that come out of college that, like, they're really emotional or reactive reactionary after a bad outing. And then you look back 2 years later and you see them like, what am I going to do? Right. And they just learn to go with it. It kind of just, I like to say pro ball kind of makes you more salty, right? Because it's a long year. You've just been at it for a long time. There's a lot of things out of your control. So you just, like, you learn how to deal with it, man.
Well, another thing I think too is, I've worked with a ton of kids in college, and I've worked with a lot of kids that have ended up playing pro ball, and I do see a change in their mindset. And I think part of it is, and you've been there, it's a job. You're at job. You're at work now. Yeah. So you can have your little temper tantrums and stuff like that in college. It's not going to work out well for you, but you're in college, and there's probably a lot of excuses made for your immature behavior, but it doesn't play at a higher level. Even if they're playing it just doesn't play. You become a nuisance. You become a pain in the ass, and you can get sent home quickly. Something else I wanted to ask you, though, and we'll finish up here in a minute. I've run this by a lot of baseball people. Just always want to get, and I get some really mixed reviews on this, but 10 years ago, I'm coaching in college. We're on a bad streak. And I take everybody to home plate, and I was like, I won't say the exact thing I said, but I was kind of like, guys, what is wrong with you guys? And one of the guys was like, Coach, I just don't feel like we're having any fun. And I went, this game is fun to you? And one of them's like, well, it's supposed to be. And I was like, would your mom tell you that? And he's like, what does that mean? And like, Coach, you never had fun when you played. I'm like, no, I was too concerned with getting my ass kicked, like, or embarrassing myself. I never did anything I enjoyed more. I loved competition. I loved to be part of a team or, be the center stage, you're on a circle above everybody else when you pitch. But I didn't think it was fun because it was too much at risk. So I've heard different responses from guys about that, but I will say I have a friend, close friend, I think you know him as well, that pitched in the big leagues for a while, and he told me once, he said, what I never got out of my head the whole time that he pitched well into his 30s, mid-30s, late 30s, in the big leagues was I never wanted to get sent home to my small town and have to explain to everyone why I failed. And I thought, that's why you were good. Think about it. If you're still carrying that fear of getting sent home,
Yeah.
and when I talk to a lot of guys that were super successful, they kind of talk that way. They're like, I never wanted to let somebody that told me I couldn't do it win. I never wanted to let my small town down, whatever that. If you don't have that, if you're comfortable with failure and it's like, I'm just not having any fun, I don't think you're going to be as good. But what about that? When you were a player, did you think that playing was fun or just enjoyable? I've kind of given away my view on it, but what did you feel when you played?
What drove me is the fear of failure. That's what drove
There you
me,
go.
dude. Literally, that's me in a nutshell. That's how I work. It's everything, right? And that's there's a thrill in that for me.
Sure.
I already know I'm enjoying what I'm doing because I decided to do it, right? That's what people yeah, I decided to play baseball because I love to do it. Right now, it's I want to win. And that's, I think I told you about my story, man. And through that process, you kind of evolve just like you do as a coach. As a player, you evolve, right? And a lot of things that you're doing are for external reasons when you're young, right? I want to be this guy. I want to be known as this guy. But through my career and my adversity, going through the surgeries, transferring schools, not having good seasons, those things and I tell guys this that go through this process. You start when you want to be great, just because you want to be great is when you start to see progress. When you want to when it's not about achieving, because I want to make a lot of money and it's just the essence of wanting to be great. And just because if you were to wake up and just say I'm doing this for free, do you have the will to be great? The great ones do, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Right.
No, you hit me between the eyes with that one because you're right.
The great ones
yeah.
do. The great ones,
you're right.
When there's nothing on the line, who do you still have the will to be great? Because the great ones say, yeah, because I'm just gonna win, right? And that's what it is. And I have a low A manager, man. He was my manager when I was a pitching coach in low A. He's awesome, one of my mentors. His name is Marty Malloy, and good, been around the game for a long time. Played in the big leagues, and he said this, Vic, there's only one way you spell fun, UIN. There's only one way you spell fun.
Right.
But, and those are the things that drive me, man. And like I said, you evolve as a player and as a coach, and you just learn, do you want to be, are you willing to be great when there's nothing on the line? Are you willing to just do that? Because not many are. There's not many.
Well, that reminds me, too, what you just said about what your buddy there said, the manager. It reminds me of the thing that House bangs into everybody when he's giving one of his lectures. He'll talk about process and result. And he goes, whenever you put result in front of process, you fail. So after I talked to him a little bit about that whole thing about the kids saying they want to have fun, it dawned on me, fun to them is winning. But they weren't willing to process. So they want the result. So
Yeah.
the kid was being honest, was like, well, I just don't feel like we're having any fun. Well, it's obvious we're not winning. We had a bad stretch, lost 6 in a row. But he was saying it's not joyful for me right now. But what I'm seeing is you guys don't process enough to get the result you're after.
Yeah.
So what it really is a bitch is when you do process and still fail.
Yeah.
But at least you can look in the mirror. And it's bad. It's bad when you do everything right you can do and you're still failing. But at least you can look in the mirror and know I'm doing all I can.
Yeah.
Right.
At least you can look in the mirror and say, hey, man, I'm putting it all out there. Right. And we have to continue to push through, and you do go through those stretches, man. We all have you lose and man, it's just not you don't make an excuse and you just don't say, hey, it's not falling my way. But it's kind of what you just said. You just continue to revisit that process. If you know you feel like you're doing everything you can, then like, what do I need to change? Like now I know that this has been my process and I revisit that and I'm able to process it myself. Now I understand like, hey man, like how do I continue to make that better and like find the will to win? But you know, there are times, man, where you feel like, hey, I did everything I can. I did everything I can.
One thing I wonder about too is expectations. I notice with college kids, like you can show up for an initial practice and they'll all be, well, at least at some of the levels I've been, they'll be just like sitting at the fence. Like nobody's told me what to do yet. And when you see the more advanced athlete, they're running, they're doing something because they kind of are getting ready. And it's something I tell the kids, and you know it from where you've been. I'm like, have you ever gone to a pro game? And they'll go like, yeah, what level? Double A, triple A, been to Norfolk, watch a game? Yeah. What do you notice about those players? How many managers or and/or coaches do you see running around telling them what to do? They're doing it for a living. So if they're not ready to play when 7 o'clock strikes, 7:15, they get sent home eventually. They don't
Yeah,
make any
dude.
more money, and the game's over.
Ain't nobody holding
So
your hand.
exactly, and I know a lot of college coaches don't want to hear it. I know they don't because it's kind of like, well, they're young men and they need to be directed. I think the best advice you can ever give these kids is figure out what it takes you to play and get it done. You've got to be prepared. And that's why I tell our pitchers that are starters, whatever it is for you, if it's long toss, run, whatever, but by the time you get there for the mound, you need to locate pitches you got to throw pitches to location, find out what you have, and enter the mound. And that time in the mound in preparation for the start should be you're lathered up and ready to go. You've done all the prep stuff. You don't just walk in the bullpen and start throwing. So you've got to do something to get prepared. But I kind of leave it up to them to what their preparation is, because I think they got to be totally comfortable. I mean, some guys do too much. If you don't
For
watch
sure.
them, they'll do too much. And clearly a lot don't do enough. And now, did y'all have, with the Phillies, did you have a pretty much a set routine of what everybody had to do for a start, or did they have some leeway into what they did?
So we pretty much everybody had some leeway. Like we would just basically put starter tells us, hey, what time you want to be on the line today, like what time you want to get going, and you kind of just let him do his thing, right? Like and then we let, that was one thing we always did, right? Every guy did their own thing, and like we may make a suggestion during the week on what helps him get back quickly, how he recovers, what's been a good routine for him. Whether it's like, hey, long tossing on your bullpen days has been good for you, things like that, and you suggest that. But then when it comes game time, man, like you hope that you've done enough work for them to understand what works for them, and they take that out there and they kind of do their own thing. And I always told our guys, man, like, hey, that's your day, man. You get to go compete. Like, you do what you got to do. Like, you get yourself ready to go compete. I'm not telling you got to do this or that. Like, whatever you feel like you need to do to get ready for game day, it's your day. You take ownership of it, and let's go compete. And that's all I cared about. And that's that a lot of our guys would do it that way. Now there's a structure on like suggestions on how you should throw in between those starts, right? Like
Sure.
like, it's not going to be, hey, we're going to long toss every day. Hey, like there's a recovery day, there's a little moderate day, right? It's a good day to like kind of get after it, whatever it is. But game days is there, man. Like you go get it. That's for the players. And I think everything you're talking about, dude, is just ownership. Like, I think too many coaches take it personal when like a player's like wants to find the resource or do something. It's like, great, like you're taking ownership of your career. I like it, right? Like it's like we have to promote that a little more.
Yeah. In the end, it is their career. Yeah.
It's their careers, dude. Like it's and like if you really keep the player first, it's their career. And I think that's why, like, going back, kind of like coming full circle from what we first talked about, coaches and deciding on using the measurables and all these things with development is like, hey, it's these players' careers. Like, that's why we got to be really good about the decisions that we make, because one thing can mess up a player's career. And that's why we say it like, what's the most non-invasive thing we can do? And sometimes you got to take risk, but you better know that guy when you take that risk. You better be buttoned up when you do it. You better have your case closed when you go into that development plan.
And that's why it's best whenever you're doing even that, it's kind of a little bit of goosing where they're kind of coming to you. Like they see the light, and
Yeah.
it makes it that much better because they're going to be that much more open to it. If you're messing around with the guy's livelihood, and you are in a sense, whether it's college or pro ball, because
You
it's
absolutely are.
you, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, so if you're going to mess with it, you gotta, and that's one of the things I've certainly learned through time is it's a lot more like, are you open to something? Something I see, you open to that? I mean, I try to approach all pitchers that way. I mean, right now is the pitching coach with a great assistant, a 24-year-old guy that's been awesome. I think we're on the same page on stuff, but yeah, I always wanted to kind of be like, if they're failing, they're kind of falling on their head, you kind of want to step up and say, hey, you open? You want to talk about something, maybe something I see? Because I don't want to just come up and say, hey, you're wrong. This isn't working. We got to fix this.
For sure.
But definitely if they're failing, they kind of know. They kind of know if something, if they're struggling with something, it might be time to try something new. All right, Vic, this has been wonderful. We're going to do this again and again. I get some panel groups together to talk baseball. I'm going to reach out to you as that as well. So please tell everybody, whichever way you want them to contact you, what you do with the Mid-Atlantic Advising, and how people can get a hold of you.
Yeah, so obviously, I'm very passionate about helping and impacting players that want to play at the next level and families, and at the end of the day, if I can be a resource for them to navigate that process, take a heavy load off of them, and build a good relationship and do it the right way, that's what's important to me and what's important to us with Elite Sports Advising. But they can reach out to me via Twitter. I have my Twitter handle is Vic Diaz 32, or just contact me directly, and that's a lot how we handle everything. What we do with Elite Sports Advising is very personable and direct. So reach out to me through my cell phone number 732-616-1493 or victor@elitesportsadvising.com, my email. But yeah, man, we just try to do it the right way, and I mean that in the most sincere.
I know you do. I know you do. I've known you, and I know you're a class act, and I really appreciate you coming on. And again, I want to do more panel discussions. I've had some people on doing some panel discussions. I'd love to get you on again, or we'll just do this again and talk pitching or talk anything about baseball. I think, for a man of your age, which you've already experienced, is wonderful. You've got such a wide range of experiences that can help younger players. You've seen a little bit of everything, and it is a great game. And I think these kind of talks are usually very productive because I think it opens the eyes for a lot of people. And I will say this on the way out, and this is something, again, for my listeners, the more to consider. This is a great guy, and this is a guy with a great experience. He's worked in professional baseball, played at the highest levels of college ball. And I really do feel bad a lot of times for just how wide-eyed and innocent a lot of the parents are. They don't know who to turn to. Am I right? Like,
correct. Yeah.
Yeah. And so this is one of the good guys. This is one of the people that you do want your kid with and palling around with and having as a mentor, because I don't want to knock the whole industry, because I know there's good people in it, but there are a lot of confused parents. They just don't really know where to turn. I mean, I've had those talks, and I've worked with kids in an indoor facility. What do I do? This kid's, school called, and I'll say this: I had a kid that turned down 4 schools to go to a 5th. Where he ended up going was a school you're very familiar with, but he turned down some schools. He went to Old Dominion, but he turned down some schools. And he said one guy said, "Screw you," and hung up. And he said the other 3 said, "God bless you. Hope you have a great career. If you ever need anything, let me know." And he told me how, and this is something a lot of parents probably need to hear because of what their kid's position is, what position they're going to be in. Have them make the phone call of rejection to a college. If a college recruited you, be man enough to tell them you're going to go. That's fine. But right before that, he goes, "Man, I'm dying because I really like a lot of these coaches that are recruiting me." This is long before you were there. It's a while back, almost 20 years ago. And I said, "Hey, if they're an ass to you, you didn't want to play for them anyway."
That's right.
And he comes back. He goes, "Coach, 3 of them could not have been nicer, but one guy was like, 'Well, screw you then,' really hung up the phone." And I'm like, "Well, then you ought to know now that you ought to be damn glad you didn't go there." He couldn't believe how gracious the other 3 guys were. And I said, I kind of expected, because I knew the 3 guys. I was like, didn't surprise me at all. The one that hung up didn't surprise me either. But that says a lot. So a lot of kids are going to be fearful. So I'd say to the parent, and I'd say to the kid, if you have to decide among 5 schools, you're blessed. If you got 5 schools to look at and you got to decide among them, if you feel uncomfortable with having to tell us a coach you're going to go somewhere else, we understand. And we've been on both ends of it. We've been the coach, we've been the player. It's not easy. It's not easy to turn school down. But again, if their reaction to you is not gracious, then screw them.
You don't want to be there.
Yeah. You don't.
Before we close out, Jack, I want to say something on that point. I called every school that recruited me when I told them I committed to Mississippi State. And the relationships that I have still to this day with those people I called is unbelievable, man. And I can name them. I called Phil Kundary, who was the pitching coach at Seton Hall, was there for a long time. Built really good pitching staffs at Seton Hall. Then was the pitching coach at Rutgers. He recruited me, man. That guy recruited me like crazy. I call him a close friend today, a mentor till this day. And
that's awesome.
Comes back full circle. In 2023, he was working with the Blue Jays. And I had told him, hey, we have some opportunities available with the Phillies. So we hire him with the Phillies, man. He's our AAA pitching coach, right? And if we didn't have that connection, right, and that's what means a lot to me, man. And so, and I'm a Jersey guy, but Matt Myers, right? Matty Myers, he was the pitching coach at Western Kentucky. Let him know, man, and he was amazing, right? He's in Double-A with the Pirates now, man. I see him on the road, and you know, it happened to be when he was recruiting me, Finney was actually the head coach at Western Kentucky at the time. So Matt Myers, him and I have a good relationship. We talked on the phone the other day, and the late Lance Wheeler, and I want to make sure I shout out him and his family. He passed away recently, but Lance, he was at Lipscomb. Lance recruited me. I called him and I let him know, and I said, thank you for recruiting me, man. Lance played a huge part in getting my coaching career off the ground, dude. Like, he ran the pitching convention, Pitchapalooza, every year. And in 2017, when I was the pitching coach at Kentucky Wesleyan, Lance was in Nashville. His pitching palooza was in Nashville. Because of that relationship that I, just calling him, man, he always remembered me for that. He let me stay at his house and go to Pitchapalooza for free as a young coach. Those things are real, man, and I think that's just a lesson for players. Like, just be a good person, man. Just be a good person. And if you do that, good things will happen. And it, as much of it's already a business. We don't need to make it more of a business. Yeah. Right? Be a good person.
But what all the coaches recognize too is we're not going to get every recruit. And if we liked you enough to recruit you in the way that we did, we might be disappointed at some level because we miss having you in the program.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean screw you and never want to talk to you again.
No doubt.
Yeah. And the kid doesn't recognize. The kid's thinking like, oh my gosh, if I let them down, they'll never like me again. But no, that's not that way at all. Like you said, yeah, it's not. And that's a beautiful story. It's interesting though that you turn down some schools to make a choice that you make, and then those people line up in the rest of your life to be a difference in your life.
That's what you every day.
What we love about baseball, man.
Yeah.
All right, man. God bless you and your family. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving. People watching, listening, more to consider. Please like, subscribe, comment. Tell us how much you love baseball. Thank you for being here tonight.
Thanks, Jack.
Vic.
Thanks for tuning in. If you like the show, subscribe and hit your notification button to get an update when we post another episode. See you soon.